Thank you for joining the webinar. We're going to be talking about what you do on the first MSP appointment. This is part 3 of a 4-part series with TAG, Technology Assurance Group. So we're really excited about it. Our past 2 webinars have been very well received. We've had a lot of great feedback from them. So we're excited to bring this one to you here today. Before we get into the webinar, just wanted to give a quick call out to Navigate 2015. It's Continuum's annual user conference. It's going to be in Las Vegas this year. We had our inaugural conference in Boston. It was a great success, and we're really going to kick it up a notch this year in Vegas. It's going to be from September 27th through the 29th at the Cosmopolitan Hotel. This event is absolutely going to sell out, so if you're interested in attending, I highly recommend getting your tickets now. Make sure you have those reserved so you can be there in Las Vegas with us. TAG is one of our sponsors. We're really excited to have them there for the event, so we're all really looking forward to Navigate 2015 this year. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dale Stein, who's our presenter today. Just a few quick housekeeping items for you guys. We are recording the webinar today, so we will be sending that to you in a follow-up email tomorrow. So be sure to look for that. We are recording. You will get some other kind of bonus items like a link to the slide deck and things like that. But just wanted to make sure everyone knew that because we get that question a lot. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to Dale.
Nate, thank you so much. And I do want to express an appreciation to having the opportunity to be able to present this series of web shares. And as Nate has said, we've had a tremendous amount of input from the crowds and the questions and follow-up. Just want to make sure everyone understands that this sequence that we're doing is a series of web shares that sort of build upon each other. And the first one we talked about was making an impact on a decision maker, understanding what your audience is, and making sure you know what kind of client that you as a company want to go after. And once we've established that, we want to talk about how you set the appointment, what you do to make the appointment, the research that you do, and to give yourself a success in setting and securing an appointment. And what today's is that we know what we're doing, we've set the appointment, and now we have that appointment and we're going to be joining that appointment. And then the last series that we're going to be doing is that we're going to present how to close that transaction. And what we're going to be doing on the last one on June 10th is that we have 2 transactions that we're going to walk you through this. And one is that has already been sold. It's a $3,500 MSP where we displaced an existing MSP. That deal closed using the techniques that we've talked about in these top 3 transactions. And then the other one that we're going to show is a transaction that we are presently going through at this point in time. We just had our first appointment with them last week, and now we're putting together the information that we gathered from that appointment to do a presentation. So that by the time the June 10th comes, I'm making the assumption that project will also be sold, but we will show both those transactions. Just want a fast introduction to who we are in case you don't know, is that, Dale Stein, and I'm co-founder of Technology Assurance Group, the TAG organization, partner in VoiceSmart Networks and MSP in California. We are one of the few entities out there that not only do we support a group of MSPs and unified communication dealers, but 5 years ago we got back into the business because of the changing transactions that were occurring in our industry, and we decided to get back on the street. And not only do we teach it, but we actually go and sell it, perform it, and we bring this information from the street knowledge back into our TAG Technology Assurance Group organization. In VoiceSmart, we received the 2013 Channel Partners 360 Award for providing holistic approach to managed IT services, network security, disaster recovery, voice SIP, and surveillance technology solutions for their customers. At TAG, we teach unified communication as our industry is rapidly approaching that model. And a little bit of background, owner of iNet, and that company grew from $600,000 in annual sales to over $18 million within a 6-year period. And we became one of the most successful VARs in the industry. And this was in the 2000 we sold that company, and that was pretty much a pure voice company. And when we sold that, TAG was created, and TAG has been here for roughly about 15, 16 years now. And our membership has transitioned to voice to data, and our data VARs have taken on the voice side. So we've done a nice mix of both those organizations. What we do is we're an International Association of Managed Service Providers, integrating IT, telecommunication, AV, surveillance, video, all the unified communication programs and services. We have 90-plus members in the U.S. and Canada, and we represent about $350 million in product and services, and we create a cooperative purchasing program for our membership, which gives them a major competitive advantage in the marketplace. And we have a number of programs that we provide to our TAG members, and it's profitability and sales growth, reoccurring revenue streams. We teach how to create 9 different reoccurring revenue streams for an MSP provider, managed service and IT solutions, employee productivity and retention, and market share. So that's the end of my commercial. Those of you who would like to pursue that, go to our TAG website. We started this out with targeting the right MSP audience and making an impact on that decision maker. And I'm not going to go through a full hour presentation, but you need to know who your client base is, who you want to go after, what your skill levels are, who you want to attract, and how you want to attract that. And we couple that with, a real significant, strong direct marketing program where our members send these out. The uniqueness about this is that if they open them 3 times, your salesperson or yourself are notified that they received it, they opened it, and at least 3 times, and it gives you the contact information, who to call, when to call them, and what their position in the company is. We just now embedded videos of testimonials into our direct marketing pieces, so we consider it very, very creative to the industry. The second program we did here was how do you market, call, and set an MSP appointment? Who's the right person to approach for an appointment, owner or CFO? We continually keep stressing we do not sell to the IT departments. We sell to a owner and a CFO, and if a IT person is going to be there, they're there with a CFO or an owner. And we start setting appointments and how we do that. And once again, you can go back into and see those first 2 web shares that will bring you to how we got this appointment, what the background of securing this appointment is, and why we have success already going in our favor as a result of what we've been able to do. We talked about before the call, you've done your research, and we're proponents of the LinkedIn, looking at first and second connections and understanding who that customer is, and do we have anybody that we know that person knows that we can talk to. And that's one of the things we do before we make that appointment. But once we've made the appointment, the next thing we do is that we're going to give ourselves about 20 minutes more educational time than any competitor going in there. And what we do is we're going to FedEx my company's front-end package. And the FedEx goes out to the appointment, and we always set appointments roughly about 3 days out in advance. So if I'm talking to you on Monday and I'm setting an appointment, the earliest appointment I'm going to have with you is going to be Thursday, because on Wednesday, you're going to receive a FedEx package, and that's going to have my front-end package in it. And what that does is that it's a scenario of my company, and we don't talk about product or services in that package. We just talk about our company, because we have a basic concept in the selling training that we do here at TAG, is that they buy from you first, they buy your company second, and they buy product and services third. And we also strongly believe in our sales process is that people buy from people that they like, trust, and respect. And to get someone to like you, trust you, and respect you is a process that you need to go through to have success. And we know that the second thing they're going to buy is the company, so we give them information on the company, and we give it to them in a significant format. It's been Federal Express to them. It's confirming the appointment for Thursday. They receive it on Wednesday. They go through this package, and that package also has some of our capability sheets in it. This is that package to open up. that we've opened it up, and it talks about VoiceSmart. We talk about our national services, CTAP, partnership plans, IT networking support, telecom systems, solutions. And those are all tear sheets that all come out because, you know, we all know that things change on a monthly basis in our industry. And then on the other side of that, we have a number of publications that we have. When we won the 360 award, we put it into this format. It goes out to all of our customer base, and it became part of a direct mail piece that we put together. But also behind that, there's anywhere from 6 to 7 different articles or different things that TAG supplies to our members that allow them to get published and allows them to have press releases being written about them and allows them to put things up on their website that shows that they are a contributor to our industry. Just a couple examples. VoiceSmart Networks wins Channel Partnership 360 Award at annual conference in Expo. VoiceSmart Network Customers Advocate to introduce managed IT services to small and mid-sized businesses. 4 years ago when we made this launch, this is one of the things that we start letting our customers know what we do and start becoming a part of our marketing pieces to the community. A number of times our articles get picked up by local newspapers, and this one was picked up by our Daily Transcript, and it says security dominates wireless industry concerns, and we did a entire article on that. Those articles then become direct mail pieces and become part of our front end package. And then this is our VoiceSmart capabilities brochure, single sheet, and we talked about VoIP, managed services, IT, call center connectivity, CTAP, security, disaster recovery, and different components that we have within our industry. When we talked about this, when we did the second presentation, we talked about zeroing in on a particular product or service rather than trying to do too much at one time to get the appointment. So this sort of ties into that second presentation. There's going to be 2 types of appointments that you're going to go out on. And I want to talk a little bit about the 2 different types of appointments and how you want to handle each one of those appointments. And the first appointment is you're going to have that appointment with the CFO or an owner only. And the second presentation talked about how you set those appointments. When you go out there, we are suggesting that you have a copy of their website printed out. Go onto their web page, print out the first page in color, and go anywhere from 7 to 10 pages deep of their website. And on that website, you're going to mark different components or different things that you notice on their website as far as how they are conducting business and what they're doing from a business standpoint. By doing this, when you walk in and you put their website down on the table, you've shown them that you've taken the time, you've given them the respect of taking a look at what they do as a business, and you're not there to sell them something. It's a real nice way of opening up a conversation about their company and about their business. Those of you that will do this, you will see just a tremendous amount of shift in the mindset of the people that you're dealing with. You have to understand, you got the CFO, you got a business owner, and the most important thing to them in their life is their business. And when you've taken the time and shown the respect that you understand who they are, and what they do, and you've gone through their website, it makes a major impact, sets the right stage for that appointment. We then are able to get into a basic discussion of their business. One of the reasons that we've been very, very successful is that we don't go in and sell anything. We primarily educate, and the most important thing we do is we try to understand their business and what business applications they are presently using and what they're utilizing technology to help facilitate the applications of how they conduct business. Once we get through that conversation, we start talking about, well, okay, understanding your business, what kind of reporting and what type of reports are you getting on your network at present time? What information are you able to secure? Are you looking at, are you getting cyber attacks? Are you looking at how much, when your patchwork's being done, are you looking at how many people are calling in for support from your technology provider? You know, let's take a look at the existing reporting that's presently being done. Now, here's what we know. 95%, 80% of the companies you go out are getting zero reporting on their networks. They have the faintest idea what's going on, and we are banking on that because we then go into the proactiveness of taking a look at your networks, and we get into general conversations of, you know, are people using Pandora? Are you going up against the wall on bandwidth utilization? Because if you don't know that, Mr. Customer, you can't really effectively proactively manage your thing. You need to get this information, and it's important to you. Now, what this does, whether they have an internal IT department, whether they have an external IT department that's doing managed services, or if they have a break fix, this really allows the owner or CFO to take notice and say, geez, I'm not getting those reports. How come? So in a real nice way, we put ourselves at an advantage because we know our competition doesn't do this. You know, if you have managed service accounts and you're not meeting with those accounts regularly on a quarterly basis, you will ultimately lose those accounts to somebody like a VoiceSmart, because we will come in and show them a better way of doing it. So we go into the reporting, and then from that point we say, well, how are you set up now? And here again, in selling, the most critical thing you can do to be successful is to stop selling. You can't sell anything to anybody. What you can do is you can educate and you can find solutions that's going to increase their profitability and give them competitive advantage. And you're not going to be able to find those solutions unless you stop selling and listen to what your customer is saying to you, or listen to what the client that you're trying to secure as a customer is saying to you. How are you set up now? And let them start explaining what they're doing, how they're doing it, and you'll start seeing the frustration that they have with the underlying technology within their business. And then we start saying what's working for you and what's not working for you. And they start giving you that information. Well, this is about a 30-minute conversation for this particular slide. It's getting to know them, getting to understand them. And if you notice, I didn't go into real heavy technology. I didn't talk to them about HG24.3. I didn't talk to them about routers. I talked to them about their business. And this is what's going to allow you to be successful, is that we're successful because we don't sell technology. We sell solutions to help their business be a better business. And we can't do that unless we understand their business. So we go through this. They're able to see that you're an intelligent individual. They're starting to like you based on your ability of being able to communicate effectively with them. And they're starting to get a lot more comfortable in dealing with you because they've had an opportunity to be listened to. Our first appointment is information gathering only. We're not there to sell anything. We're not there to give them any solutions. We're there to gather the information so that we can, in fact, come back with a proposal and solutions that will be beneficial to their business based on how they're running the business and based on what they're trying to accomplish from a technology standpoint. We don't mention products. We don't talk about HG24. We don't talk about the routers. We don't talk about anything that has to do with any particular product. We talk about general business solutions. We talk about the services that we provide in a general manner. And one of the things that we talk about is that, how are you handling anti-spam? What are you doing with malware? What are you doing with antivirus? And what kind of reports are you getting on those? What do you do with that today? I don't come in and say, oh, we sell you WebRoot, and WebRoot's going to come in here, and we're going to do this, this, and this. All right? I'm listening. I'm asking, what are you doing now? All right? Is that working for you? Do you get that? The other thing we start talking about is, what's your policy and procedures for patching? Are you getting patching reports? Do you see what patches are being deployed? Are you testing those patches before they go out? And we get them to talk about that, and they start realizing, well, geez, I'm not getting any reports on my malware and anti-spyware. I'm not doing any patching, not only to the desktop, but I'm not doing any patching on my my servers. All right, they're starting to question everything that they're doing. We talk about, geez, when an employee's traveling, they have a problem at the hotel. Do they have someone to call? When an employee's at their desk, if they can't get their printer to print, they're having problems with email. What's the process, and how effectively are you in providing the services to your own employees so they can do their job better? And once again, it's conversation, and this conversation is going to go in a lot of different directions. But you're going to get a real good understanding of what their frustrations are, what they want to accomplish, and pretty much how they want to accomplish it. We're going to tie this back into everything they do is how they do business today, all right? Because we want to establish that. And then the next thing that I'm going to show you is the most important thing you'll ever do on a first appointment. It's absolutely critical. It will make when you deploy this process, you're going to sit back and be amazed of just how much they open up to you and how much they start accepting the mindset of doing business with you. And we take our hands and we put up our left hand. We take our left hand, we put it out in the air, and we say, what we need to do to be able to help you, Mr. Customer or Mr. Prospect, is we need to determine, where are you at today? All right, we need to take a picture. We need to see, what are you set up on? How are you set up? What do you have? What's working? What's not working? And we need to find out what you have today. Once we do that, through discussion with myself and the people that are in your organization, we're going to go out to here's where we want to go. And at that time, I bring out my right hand, I put it out there, and I say, we need to decide, where do we want to go? Now, the important thing here is that nobody goes from where you're at today to where you want to go to. What we're going to do, once we know where you're at, we're going to say, okay, we know where you're at. Here's what we need to do first. We need to go to E and establish this based on what we see you're doing today. Then we need to go to B, and then we need to go to C, and then we take you to where you need to ultimately go. Nobody goes from here you are today to where you want to go. We're going to do this in steps, and every time we do something at the A, we're doing that because we know where we ultimately want to go. So we're not going to waste investment by deploying A. When we go to B, A and B are going to work together, and B still is going to be in line with where we want to go to, and C is going to be there. That's going to tie everything together to get us to where we ultimately want to go. Now, Mr. Prospect, this can take months. This can take months. This can take years. It all depends upon where we're at, what we have, and what we're trying to accomplish based on what you have today. Now, what happens here is that the owner of the company, the CFO, they sit down and they go, oh, okay, this is not going to be one big swoop, something I can't handle. They're going to take an intelligent approach to this. They're going to take care of the critical aspects first. Once we have the critical aspects, we will all agree based on the information they've given and where we're trying to go and from our strategy of where we need to go. I know I need to go there, but right now I got 2,003 machines all through my facility. They're going to talk to me about how I make that transition and move those machines out, how I upgrade, and how we budget for it. That's the other discussion I get into, is that as we go to A, B, and C, we start budgeting for it and what we're going to do and how we're going to do this. You will physically see that prospect take a breath and breathe and go, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I like this. I understand this. this is something that we can, in fact, understand. All right? So now, we got this concept. They're talking to us. They like us, and now they're starting to respect us, and they're starting to trust us. I haven't sold them anything at this point in time. I've gotten really good information on their company. I'm not sure where they want to go. I'm not sure where they're even at today. A lot of times we'll get, geez, what's this going to cost me? And I say, you know, Mr. Prospect, here's what I do know. It's not going to cost you anything to understand where you're at. It's not going to cost you anything to where you need to go. All I can do is present that information to you and then give you a path that gets there based on your budget restraints, based on resources, based on a lot of different issues. What I need to do is I really, really need to understand where you're at today. And let me explain the best way for us to be able to do that. And this is where I introduce rapid fire. And the number one thing about rapid fire is that we do not call this a probe. Nobody enjoys being probed. And I see a lot of my competition saying, well, we're going to put probes on your network. As soon as you say I'm going to probe your network, the faces turn white, they got me into my network, and so forth and so on. All right? We tell the customer is that in order to get that picture today, we're going to do a network analysis tool, and that tool is going to allow us to see and then allow me to put together a Visio for you. So I'll give you a pictorial of what you have, and on that pictorial, we're going to have green, red, and blue. The green stuff is that, hey, we're hitting stride. The blue is that, boy, we better take a look at this at some point in time. And the red is, you know what, we got to fix this before we can move forward, because red creates some real concern for you as a company. And that's how we start developing. How do we develop the A, the B, the C, and the priority to where we're going to go to? So once we put and do a network analysis, all right, we take that information back. We'll formulate, we'll gather a fair amount of information. We'll have the essence of being able to come back to you and show you some concerns, show you what we're concerned about, show you things that you should be concerned about, and start putting the plan together, because now we all know where we're at. And once we do that, then we'll come back and start determining where you need to be ultimately, and then working together, we'll come up with that plan. Mr. Prospect, does that make sense to you? Well, 100% of the time, every time we've done this, they go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the appointment that I'm going to show you that we're closing right now walked in, and it was they had, their IT staff was there, which is the other kind of appointment which I want to get into. The owner was there, CFO was there, and they started the conversation out with, you ain't putting any probes on our networks. I mean, that's how it started. And we said, okay, that's fine. And then we went through this process that we went through here. And when we got to this point, and through a conversation, they left the room. They came back, and they said, Dale, let's go ahead and get that network analysis done. And you know what? Really appreciate you coming in here and approaching it in this manner. We're looking forward to doing some business with you. What you're telling us makes a lot of sense. We appreciate that. And that's how simple it was. And we went in, the analysis tool takes about an hour and a half. We did it while we were there. And we said, we'll get back to you. And the next thing we did is that I kept this simple. We keep it very, very uncomplicated. And I end this thing back up with referring back to my hand motion. I mean, it's the most critical thing you'll do on a first call. It just really sets the stage for them to listen and for you to listen of what we want to do. Because the first appointment, the sale that we've made here, is let me get into your network and let me see what you have. The most critical thing that we could ever possibly do. The second type of the appointment is the appointment that we were just on last week, and it says the owner, the CFO, and they bring their IT staff person into the appointment. Now, you got to be real careful, but here's what we were finding is we start with, we're going to create an ally with the IT person. We don't meet with IT people only. And in our last presentation, we showed how to set the appointment with an owner and CFO. And when they say, "Oh, meet with my IT department," we showed you how to go back and meet with the owner, because meeting with the IT department is futile. You're wasting your time, their time. We will not go out on it. But is it okay to have them there? Sure. It also depends upon the size of the company, because here's what happens. When the CFO and the owner of the company comes, you're dealing with a smaller company. When they have an IT person on staff, you're dealing with at least 50, 60, 70, 100 employees, and some of those, there are still companies out there that have that. But you have to understand, these guys are under the gun every day. They're not given budgets. They don't have the tools to be able to work with. So our conversation is, what we do as a company, we come in and make this picture. We still use the hand motions, and then we look at the IT person and we say, "You know what, Joe, we're going to give you the tools to become strategic, and we're going to give you the tools to allow you to have the time and the resources to proactively manage this network, rather than stamping out fires on a daily basis," because you and I both know that's counterproductive, right? And they sit there and they go, "Yeah, yes, right, absolutely." Now, whether or not they're going to stay with the company at the ultimate end of this transaction, that's an unknown. But many times we'll have an IT person who stays on staff that becomes the hands and ears and does a lot of the other things that are running around and so forth, and they work in conjunction with us. And sometimes, based on the size of the company and the complexity, all right, as we go through this process, that IT person allows us to get into everything we want, gives us all the information. And, are there times that that person is terminated after 3 or 4 months? Absolutely, that occurs, all right? But I'm not going to fight with that person on the first initial outlay of where we're at. We bring him in as an ally. We bring him into as part of the team. We start sharing our information with that person, and if we can protect his position, we will, and that person will know that. Like I said, most IT personnel, they're looking for validation, and they're looking for proper tools to be more effective. And, in our conversation, we talk about, a little bit of VMware, we talk about Citrix, we talk about the remote users, how are they getting into that, what are we doing? Are you spinning up any of your servers at this point in time? Are your VMware certified? So, and we get a little bit more technical on the upper surface with the IT guy to make him look like he knows what he's doing, but I still don't get down into the trenches with the HG 24.36 level 5, software. We just don't go down there. So on that second appointment, take these two things into consideration, and then just do everything that we just showed you how to do. And all of a sudden now you have a potential customer that, likes you and respects you and starting to trust you. You didn't go in there and try to sell them anything. You didn't go in there to try to show them how smart you were. All right, you went in there and you listened to what their business was and what their applications are, and you gave them a logical process to allow them to transition to managed services. And some of the conversation that I do get into is I say, you know what, there's nothing that's pure MSP anymore, and there's nothing that's pure cloud. Everything we're doing out there, it's a combination, they call it, it's a hybrid, is that, we're sitting here and you got a Exchange server, it may become an end of life. Now it's a decision time. Do I put that an Exchange service out into the cloud? And those are the kinds of things, Mr. Customer, that we're going to be investigating. And we're going to look at how cost effective is it, what's the best way of doing it. I'm here to protect your investment. I'm here to protect and give you ROI. I'm here to justify what we do, because technology needs to do two things. It needs to increase your profitability. It needs to give you a competitive advantage. And if it doesn't do that, there's no reason to embrace the technology that we're going to be talking about. So that's my job, is to make sure we fit within that guideline. The sale has been done. As soon as they say, yeah, let's go ahead and get the analyzers going, that makes sense, right? We've accomplished the sale. The first appointment is to set concepts and to make arrangements to deploy the network analyzers. It's also to set up a timeline and next step and set expectation. What is this process going to look like? How long is this process going to take? What are the things that we're going to be looking at? If it's a break fix guy that's having their services now, we'll slant our questions and we'll slant our information towards a break fix type mentality. We know they have no reports, they have nothing, they don't know what's going on, and so forth. So in addition to setting the analyzers, I just need the IP address, and I need their IP addresses to be able to set this up and make it work. So, it goes back to, and I close and I say, Mr. Customer, here, like I say, we're going to show you where you're at today. Based on, once we gather the information, based on the continuing of this conversation, we're going to show where we want to go and where you need to go. And as I said before, nobody goes from here to there. We're going to take this in steps from A to B to C and ultimately get there. And the timeline is going to be dependent upon the pressing issues, budget restraints, resource restraints, and where your business is at. Are you comfortable with that, Mr. Prospect? And you know what? 100% of the time they look at you and say, you know what? Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I understand this now. Okay, let's start the process. So I think it's critical for you to go back and take a look at and have a strategy of how you're going to have success. Hope is not a strategy. I hope I get this deal. It's not a valid strategy. We started with knowing what customers we're going to go after, right, based on our skill levels and where we're at in this particular marketplace. We showed you how to set appointments and where to get those appointments from. And now that we've got the appointment, we said, okay, let's give ourselves a fighting chance to be able to get through to the point where I can now move over to the proposal stages and consummate this transaction. And that's going to be June 10th. And as I said to you before, we're going to walk you through from start to finish. Ronald McDonald House, $3,500 a month transaction, full MSP. And the other one is that we're in the process of we are now putting together, because they allowed us to put all our analyzers on there. We're working with their existing IT staff, and they're giving us every conceivable bit of information that you can possibly want to be able to put together a great picture. So that's what we do. We want to increase profits and sales today. You can learn about TAG, and I'm going to turn this back over to Nate. And Nate, if there's some questions that everyone has, the last web show we did, it took us a couple of days to get back to everybody because we were feeling about 50 to 60 different transactional things of people asking questions. We're very, very excited that you as a group have really taken hold of this process as we look at the people that are going back into the other web shares. Any questions, Nate?
Yeah, thanks again, Dale. This was a great presentation. We've got a number of questions coming in right now. One of them from Tom, and that is about how do you actually put off the conversation of product if they do want to talk about that on the first appointment?
Yeah, when they start, well, let's talk about product. I said, well, Mr. Customer, right now, to talk about product is going to be a disservice to you and to myself. Don't know what we're trying to accomplish, and here's what we try to do. Trying to figure out what you're trying to accomplish, but more importantly, if I know why you're trying to accomplish something, I will find the best product that will do that for you in a different way. So once I become a little bit more educated, I understand your business a little bit. I've gone through the website. I have a couple customers that are in this space. I'll never understand the business as well as you do, but I will get a real good understanding or a basic understanding to bring a technology based on what we find. So it's just a little unfair to ask for that information because I really don't know it. I represent a lot of different products because we're a true unified communication company. And does that make sense to you?
Yeah, thank you.
And you know what? they back off at that because, you know, how could you name a product on your first call unless you're out there selling hardware in boxes? We don't do that. We sell solutions. That's why, you know, we have such a high close ratio.
Great, thanks, Dale. Another question here about the network analysis, and do you actually charge for that when you go in for this first meeting?
No, you know what? We have not been charging for that. What we try to do is that one of my statements says, hey, it's not going to cost you anything for us to find out what you have and where you need to go. All I have, I will invest my time because I think your company is worth my time to be able to provide assistance and to help. All right, your company is the kind of company that I want to be able to represent. I'm willing to take my time and energy to do that for you.
Great. Another question here about discussing money at the first meeting, and this attendee Zach, he's asking, do you not have a discussion about money at all on that first meeting?
Absolutely not. I will not discuss money because I don't know. What I want to discuss is tell me why I'm here, because I'm here for a reason, because you're not happy with what you're doing right now. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So no matter what you're spending or not spending really has nothing to do with this conversation, because if it did, I would be here. You didn't call me in to save money. You called me in because you wanted to see what I could do to be able to assist you. In talking about product or dollars on the first call is you're jumping ahead of the game. Please take the time to listen, and please take the time to have the ability to understand what you have. And like I say, the only sale that I'm trying to make here is, yeah, Dale, go ahead and go do your analysis on my network. I really want to see what that looks like. So it's impossible to talk money.
Great. So another question here about bringing a sales engineer, actually from Zach again. And do you bring that sales engineer at all to that first appointment and/or the second appointment when you start talking with like an IT staff member?
Yeah, great question. First appointment, we'll typically go in with salespeople. Second appointment, we'll come in with a sales engineer. And one of the things that we're, and I'm just going to add this also, one of the things that we're also playing with right now is the quarterly meetings, is that the sales representative will go in there, they bring in a laptop, go into the Wi-Fi, and we do a video conference back to the office where the technical staff is located. So the sales guy's there with technical staff backing up the reports, and we're just moving in that direction. Your technical departments, guys, are absolutely critical to you. They are the ones that you got to give them enough information to come down and start sizing. What are you going to actually do from a solution standpoint? But you know what? Here, this isn't rocket science. I mean, take a look at it. You got servers. Can we consolidate the number of servers? Our analyzer is pretty much going to tell us that if we have too many servers, and can we eliminate some of the servers? Do we have an opportunity to virtualize some of those servers? All right. I'm going to charge you $150 per month per server. I count how many desktops we have. All right. We know that's $35 a desktop, basically. We know if we're going to do disaster recovery, what those costs are. We know that included in the $35, I got malware, anti-spam. I'm going to, dependent upon the company, I'm going to talk about cybersecurity and go into a little bit more detail on the call that we're going to talk about June 10th about cybersecurity and the aspects of what is occurring out there and what we can do for them to give them a complete picture. A salesperson understands, here's what the technology does. A technical person understands not only what it does, but how do I get it to do that, and what's the configuration that I need to do that. And our sales engineers, our technical people, put together our proposals, and you know what? We will come back with that technical support on the close of the transaction, or sometimes it takes, a couple times to go back, or a couple times for my technical people to talk to their technical people to gather the information so that the salesperson can come back in with a sales engineer that's there for support, not to present, there for support, to ask if we do get down into the minutia, and that the company feels comfortable that, oh, hey, they got some pretty good technical people. Great question, though.
Great, thanks, Dale. Just a quick note here, we've gotten a few questions about a recording. Yes, we have been recording the session today. We will be sending that to you in a follow-up email. We're also going to include in that follow-up email Dale's previous sessions. So there were a few questions about those as well, so we will be sure to include them in that email. So look for that from me tomorrow at some point.
And
another question.
I mean, here, you got my contact information, you have my phone number, you have my email, and from that last session, I've had a number of guys call and ask questions that they're in the process of trying to set some appointments. And, I took the call, we worked through it, and they were successful making the appointment. So, you have access to us here. If we can help you, we'd love to be able to do so. And Ted will be at the Navigator Show in Vegas. So please stop by and say hi. This series has been a real interesting process for us, and we think, according to what Nate is telling us, it's been a highly accepted by the community out there. So we're pretty happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a lot of good feedback from our participants here. Another question for you here, Dale. And that's, at what point do you get them to actually sign a service agreement?
That's at June 10th. We're going to bring in our agreements and our service agreements and show them how to do that.
Great.
So that's the third thing, is how do we close the transaction?
Yeah. Another question kind of along those lines, and I'm assuming you'll cover this in the next presentation, but how long does the process take from the first meeting to the first invoice for services?
Yeah, we're averaging about 3 weeks to 3 to 4 weeks. And, a real quick transaction, smaller deals is, 2 weeks. You get above 50 employees, it depends upon the complexity, depends upon what the reports are telling us. But, I would say 3 to 4 weeks. And that's a 3 to 4 week transaction is a deal that's going to be about $3,500 a month to $4,000.
Great. Another question here about what clients are currently spending, or what prospects are currently spending per month on their IT. Is that a conversation that you usually get into on that first meeting you have? No,
I really don't. Here's a basic concept. I've been selling technology for 40 years, and the conclusion I've come to, what the customer really wants? He wants a solution that's going to work. People buy price when we give them nothing else to purchase. The way that when we come in and we show what we're doing for that customer, I'm going to more than be able to justify my price or my cost, because we do cost versus price, because a price is different than a cost, and we talk about cost versus price. And if you have a basic concept of, if you're going to do something, do it right. We would rather walk away from the deal and not do it right. I'd rather do the deal right than to cut something out to save some money because the guy's cost conscious. It's our job to show the importance of, here's what you're getting, here's what it's going to do for you, here's the end result of where you're at, and you know what, if you do it in this fashion, in the long term, this is a less expensive way of going, and here's why. So I will get into those kinds of discussions on the June 10th meeting, because they come up, and I'll come in and say, well, Dale, I'm doing this for half the cost. I said, really? All right, and then I go into it and I show them what they're not getting, and I'm showing what it's costing them not to have what I'm giving them, and they go, okay, I get it. And you guys, you have to understand, we have a pretty strong close ratio. Do I get 100% close ratio? No, but are we closing about 85% of what we go out on? Yes.
Great. Another question here. And this is about an internal IT department, and this has partly to do with, setting that first appointment like we talked about in the last webinar. but I think the conversation kind of carries through. And when you're dealing with an internal IT department, how does that conversation differ, and how do you kind of counter that notion that they don't need you if they already have their own internal IT department?
Well, here and then, like I say, the second web share, we did cover that, but in its essence, when we call in for an appointment, and they simply say, "Hey, I'll have an IT department that handles that." I say, "Well, this is not a technical decision. What this is we want to talk to you about ROI, and we want to show you a different way of doing this. If I can prove ROI and showing you a different way of doing what you're doing today that could be more effective, all right, at that time, if you feel comfortable bringing in your IT department, I have no problem with it. But let's get past the first stage, because if it's not going to ROI, and if it's not going to be effective for you, we don't need to go any further. On my first meeting, I'd like to have that opportunity to be able to determine whether or not this is effective or not effective. And then I get the appointment, and like I say, sometimes they'll bring in their IT department, but I don't encourage it, but I also don't fight it, as long as they're going to be in that meeting with me. And that's the owner being in the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question here, and it's about proof of concepts. And do you run proof of concepts on a service, and on what timeline and cost before you actually establish a long-term relationship?
Okay, I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Say it again, Nate.
Yeah, it's about running proof of concepts on a service, for example, network monitoring,
Okay.
and on what timeline and sort of cost do you run that proof of concept on before you really establish that relationship?
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Here, the proof of concept in running some of the analyzers or some of the tools that we use, depending upon what we want to be able to do, is that a big challenge that we all have is how many people are using the internet, where are they going with it? Is everyone video streaming? They doing Pandora? We will put those probes on the network once we have authority to do so. And that's why sometimes it takes 3 to 4 weeks, because we'll typically sometimes let things sit there for a week before we actually take a look at what we have. So, and here again, once again, depending upon the complexity of the transaction, depending upon how many moving parts we have to it, that will either take the time out and spread out. But what we'll do is we'll take it component by component and go and discuss each type of proof of concept, and we discuss each type of service that we're looking for on an individual basis, depending upon the complexity of the transaction. I hope I answered that question. And if I didn't, the gentleman that answered that question, have him call me. I can get into a lot more detail on that. That's a pretty complex question.
Great, thanks, Dale. Got a question here about being a three-man shop. So this guy's a three-man shop, and he's asking what can be included in the front-end package if you don't have the experience of a big company?
Well, a three-man shop, getting some articles, doing something, even if it's your blogs that you're writing, and you show people that you're writing blogs to the industry, showing, here in Continuum has some pretty good collateral that you can include with it, things that you're working on, even if it's a customer testimonials. If you got 4 or 5 customers, you get 2 or 3 testimonials, you look pretty good. We all start out small, guys, all right? And the reason you're with Continuum is they're going to help you leverage your business to grow your business. Anybody out there lecturing on how to increase your business, they all looking successful because right now it's the hottest industry out there in the movement. If you're not growing your business, you're doing something really, really wrong, because the customers are asking for MSP services. The customers are asking for the cloud. They're seeking you out. A front-end package for a three-man shop, there's a number of things you can do that could be pretty effective. And here again, the smaller companies are out there. If you want to call me or email me, give me an email, and I'll send you some ideas, and I'll send you some concepts of how you can take a three-man shop and appear a lot larger than what you are, because you are. You have the whole backing of Continuum. All right, that puts you into a whole different level, and it's a mindset that you got to take a look at. But I'll help with that. Email me, and I'll send you some. I'll send you information on how to do that. Just give me a little bit of background, where you're at, how long you've been there, and I'll show you what to do. Would that work?
Yep, great. Thanks, Dale. So I'm going to give you one last question because I want to make sure we wrap up before the end of the hour, and that's about pricing. And when you suggested the 150 for servers and 35 for workstations, is that a comprehensive solution you're including there?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's comprehensive. I mean, we have a calculator that, our sales guys use. We constantly take a look at, what project work is, how many hours we're going to spend on site. That's included with the MSP contract. I mean, that's a whole nother series of how you price this stuff up that maybe we should take a look at, Nate. But that's a pricing is another just, I can't get into it now, but I mean, those are rough terms. I mean, here's how simple it is, in my opinion. You take a 25, 30-man company station. It's going to cost that owner about $100 to $105 per month per employee. And you know what? That $105 is pretty comprehensive of all the services that we have available. It's not rocket science, guys. Go back and look at everything you're doing. If you're not getting $105, $110 per employee, you're not making the kind of margins you should be making.
Great. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up with that. We're right at the top of the hour. So thank you so much, Dale, for joining us here on this webinar today.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Just a reminder, we will be sending out links to the recording and to Dale's previous presentation, so look for those from me tomorrow. And thanks, folks, for joining our webinar today. We hope you found it useful and informative, and we'll see you on an upcoming webinar sometime soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.